Hi friends, my name is Jess and welcome back to my channel, Books Past Bedtime. This week we're going to be doing a new installment of me reading my friend's favorite books, and this week we are going to be reading my friend Nicolee from Bonbon Reads Favorite Books, and I am so excited for this video. Nicolee and I have become super close recently and I absolutely adore her and her channel, and she's just like a bright, fun, bubbly, sweet person. Like, you will never meet a sweeter person. I love her so much and her content is so fun, and she definitely reads a different variety of genres than I do. I'm more on like contemporary literary fiction thriller side of things, where she definitely reads a lot more like fantasy and sci-fi and historical fiction. A lot of the favorites that she told me about were actually historical fiction, so I decided to take that route in this reading vlog, and I'm going to be reading 3 of Nicolee's favorite historical fiction books. So I am very excited to get into this reading vlog and see how well Nicolee and I's taste align, especially because we don't read a lot of the same genres. The first book I plan to pick up is The Japanese Lover by 𝗙𝗵𝗱𝗨 𝗦𝘂𝗧. This book follows a young Polish girl who at the start of World War II actually moves away from home and moves to America to kind of escape the war and everything that's happening. I believe she moves to San Francisco, and while she is there she meets a young Japanese man and falls in love, but this is not a great time to fall in love with a Japanese man in America because of the American internment of Japanese people during World War II. So they are quickly separated, and this just tells the story over multiple years of their lives and their love and all of that kind of stuff. The description of this book reminds me of that book that I read for Kirsten's favorites, and I don't remember what it was called, but I'll put a picture of it here. I feel like these have like similar premises, so I am very interested to check this one out. Nicolee really loves this one, and my friend Noelle really loves this one as well, so hopefully it'll be good and hopefully I'll really like it. I'm very interested in reading this one. Next book I plan to pick up is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. This is another World War II read, and it follows 2 sisters in France and how their lives are affected by the war, I believe. I'm not really sure anything more than that, but I'm definitely excited to get into it and check it out. Everyone loves this one. A lot of my friends recently read this one because this was the Miners Book Club pick last month, and I know Darian really loved it, and I believe Rachel loved it as well. My friend Meredith loves the book. There's so many people that love this book, so I'm very excited to check it out, and I hope I love it as much as everyone else. And finally, I am planning to read The Scent Keeper by 𝗙𝗵𝗱𝗨 𝗦𝘂𝗧. This book I think has some historical fiction elements, but I think it also has some fantasy elements, so this one is a little bit different, maybe magical realism elements, something like that. There's a little bit of unreality sprinkled into this one, but this one basically follows this young girl who lives on this island with her father. They're isolated from any other civilization. I'm not sure she even knows that there is any other civilization. This is just how life has always been for her, but her father actually collects scents in these jars, and one day all of these jars start to lose their scents, I think, and they have to figure out what's happening, and I feel like this kind of forces them to leave the island, because I think eventually she is introduced to society. I'm not really sure. This book feels very like difficult for me to explain, but I've heard a lot of good things, and Nicolee compared it to Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens, which is one of my favorite books of all time, so that is some high praise and a comparison that makes me very interested in this one, so I definitely wanted to read this one for sure. So those are the books that I'm going to be reading this week, and let's just dive right into it. Sorry about the AC and car noises, but it is way too hot outside to not have it. This is just going to be a short update clip, so hopefully you'll be alright. But I just wanted to hop on and tell you that I am halfway through The Japanese Lover by 𝗙𝗵𝗱𝗨 𝗦𝘂𝗧, and I am very, very much enjoying this so far. So basically this is about this girl who moves to America from Poland during World War II. It's kind of just like an escape to get away, to make sure she isn't harmed by the war that's going on in Europe at that time. And she actually moves in with her aunt and uncle who already live in America, and there she befriends this young Japanese boy. He and his dad do the gardening for her aunt and uncle. She befriends him, they play a lot, they have a lot of fun, but then he and his family are taken to Japanese internment camp and they lose touch for a while. And then flash forward, we're also following a present day timeline where we're following this woman named Irina, and Irina is working in this like old folks care home where she befriends Alma, who is the woman who immigrated to America from Poland, and she kind of starts learning about her life, and she finds out that she is getting all of these letters from this mysterious like friend or admirer. Irina and Alma's, I think it's like her grandson or her nephew or somebody, some relation to Alma, are trying to figure figure out who she's writing to. I believe it is this Japanese boy who she was friends with when she was a child, or he's a Japanese man now, but so it's following both timelines. We're finding out what happened in the past and how Alma became friends with him and their relationship and what happened to him when he went into this internment camp. But we're also following Irina, and Irina is a very interesting character as well, has her own storyline going on. So I am really enjoying this so far. I really love the writing. It's very like richly and beautifully written. I really have come to care for the characters a lot, and this isn't even that long of a book, and I'm only halfway through. Oh, I have a nice napkin bookmark in here. That's fun. But yeah, I'm really loving this one so far. I could see it being like a four-star read. It depends on how emotional I get at the end to if it would be like pushed into 5-star territory. So I'm interested to see where this one ends up, and I'm very much liking it so far. Can't wait to finish it up. Alright, so my first book finished for this vlog is The Japanese Lover by Isabella Allende, and I absolutely loved this one. We are starting off on a high note because I rated this one 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. In the second half of the book, we dive even deeper into the lives of the characters and how they all intertwine. There were just some really beautiful moments towards the end of the story. I actually did end up crying, which always makes me rate a book higher because that means I have an emotional connection to it. So I really enjoyed this one. The characters were so lovely and so beautiful, and I just connected to them really deeply and really enjoyed learning about their stories. Just the writing in this one as well was really well done. It was just a very like rich, well-rounded story, and I absolutely loved it. This one definitely has themes of found family and romance in it. Had a lovely historical setting in World War II. I can definitely see why Nicolee loves this one. She definitely has taste because this is such a wonderful book and will possibly end up on my favorites of the year. So the next book I started was The Scent Keeper, and I'm about 50% of the way through right now, and I am enjoying this one. So just as a recap, this one is about our main character. The book starts out when she is pretty young, and her father live on this isolated island away from society and away from everyone else. And this is a sort of magical realism story, so there is an element of magic in here, and that is that her father collects scents in jars. There are these things called scent papers, and he preserves them in these jars, and the scents are like memories, they evoke memories, and her father is like obsessed with collecting these and taking care of them until one day they kind of start to lose their scent and lose their magic. And our main character is also kind of jealous of these scent bottles because her father seems to care more about them than he does about her in some instances. And she also kind of starts to realize that there is a larger world out there that she's missing out on. So she kind of starts to rebel a little bit, and some bad things happen. She ends up having to leave the island, and she is taken in by this other family. She has a really hard time adjusting to life in the real world, especially because she's not used to interacting with other people or even interacting with the world in general in terms of like going to school and having expectations. She quickly adapts, and she meets this boy who she's formed a really strong connection with. Her and him are both very much bullied at school, so they kind of form a camaraderie, but they also really like each other. He has some issues going on at home, so they kind of end up going back to the island that our main character grew up on to escape everything, and that's kind of where we are at the 50% mark. I really have no idea what's going to happen next exactly. I am enjoying this one so far, but definitely not as much as The Japanese Lover. I definitely liking that one better so far. I do really like the writing of The Scent Keeper. I like all of the elaborate descriptions of the setting. Nicolee, in her wrap-up video when she read this one, she talked about how she equated it to Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens in terms of like the descriptions, in terms of nature and the setting. So I definitely really see those comparisons. There's lots of description, and you're very grounded in the setting like you are in Where the Crawdads Sing. So and also there's kind of themes of like raising yourself in childhood and in nature, that kind of thing. Similar kind of character story arc. But I'm not liking this one quite as much as that one. Generally, I don't really like books that take place over a long period of time, and this one does so. Like, it starts when she's really young, and then at the 50% mark where she's like 16 or 17. I just generally feel like books like that lose focus of the plot, and I feel like this one kind of has. There's really not been a lot that's happened. I mean, it has, but it's happened over like a long period of time, and we haven't seen a lot of it. I don't feel super connected to the characters yet, so I'm not thinking that this one is going to be a 5-star read, but it could still be a 4-star. Like I said, I am liking it. It just doesn't yet feel like a new favorite or anything, but I am really enjoying it. I'm excited to read the rest of it, and I will probably do so today, so I will probably come back to you looking exactly like this as in my clips about the next book, The Nightingale. I'm just gonna finish everything today. But yeah, so I'm gonna go finish that and The Nightingale, and I will be back with some updates. So as you can probably tell, it is not the same day. It is actually much later. I'm actually like on vacation right now. That's why I'm in this weird bunk room, but I'm gonna tell you my final thoughts on The Scent Keeper. So The Scent Keeper was kind of underwhelming for me, I will have to say. I think I will probably settle on like a 3.5 star rating, maybe a 3-star rating, somewhere in there. I didn't hate it by any means, and there were things that I enjoyed, but there are also some things I had issues with. I pretty much only had one major issue with this book, and I kind of mentioned it in the previous clip, and that was the pacing and the plotting of this book, and I think it had a lot to do with how much time it encompassed. It went from like childhood to young adulthood. It was honestly kind of a short book, so we only saw like specific scenes from each stage of life, and I just didn't really understand why some things were included and some things weren't, and why we started where we did in the story. Like, I understand the importance of the events that happened, but at the same time, it just ended up feeling very weirdly paced. Huge time skips would happen where they wouldn't really explain like if anything important happened during those time skips. Like, it would just be between chapters. It wasn't like there were different parts. There was nothing addressed really where it was like she is now 18 and it's 3 years later and nothing important happened in those 3 years. It was kind of just like between chapters where it was like all of a sudden she would be 10 and then in the next chapter she would be 14, and it was like, okay, what happened? How did we get from there to there? It just felt kind of disjointed in the pacing and the plotting, and I just thought it was kind of weird. In terms of the plot, it also at the end felt like, what was the point of this book exactly? And I think it was because it was paced so strangely, so I didn't really have a clear sense of like what was the climax and what was the conflict that the main character overcame. Like, it was all kind of convoluted and wrapped up. There were like little conflicts that she solved like throughout. There was not like a really big issue that came up, and not that there really has to be, but in most books there are kind of something that the story is leading to, and in this didn't feel like the story was leading to anything, and kind of at the end it felt like we were getting there, but then it just kind of like dropped off, fell flat, ended, and I was like, okay, well, what was the point of going through all that if that wasn't going to be addressed, really? I don't know. It just felt strange to me. At the end of it, my main takeaway was like, what was the point of reading this? I don't really understand what just happened or why it just happened. So yeah, that was my main issue with the book. Overall, like, it was, I think, more good than bad. Like, the writing was really well done. I really liked the descriptions. The characters were kind of frustrating, but they were all right. I didn't really always understand their decision making, and I didn't really always understand the consequences of their decision making. For the most part, I liked the characters pretty well, and I felt for them and was invested in what happened to them and all of that stuff. What I'm kind of getting from the past 2 books that I've read, The Japanese Lover and The Scent Keeper, is that Nicolee really likes a character-driven story, and she likes to spend a lot of time with her characters. So both of these books, even though I'm kind of griping about this one taking place over a long period of time, The Japanese Lover also kind of takes place over a long period of time, the exception being that it's kind of told from the present tense with flashbacks, which I think is a better way to do a long period of time kind of story, whereas The Scent Keeper was chronological, and I think that's where the disconnect was for me. Still, I think that's interesting that both books are kind of character studies, show the characters' full lives so you can really understand their entire being as a character and like why they make the decisions they do and why they are the person they are. So I think that's kind of cool. And in this book, I mentioned in The Japanese Lover, there's kind of an element of like found family, and there's definitely that element, that trope in this book as well, as our main character chooses her adoptive family as her like found family, and her father kind of took her away from her mother, and her mother's not who she wants her to be and wasn't in her life most of her life, so she kind of has to find her people in the same way that Alma did in The Japanese Lover. So I think it's interesting to see those parallel themes. That's my favorite thing about reading all of my friends' favorite books, is like seeing what exactly makes their favorite books and what's like the thread that connects all of them. So I definitely think with those 2 books, that's what it is. So that was The Scent Keeper, and now I'm going to move on to talking about The Nightingale. Alright, I am 50% of the way through my last book for this video. That is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. This is another historical fiction read. It's actually another World War II historical fiction. It actually takes place in France, follows these 2 sisters who are very different. Our older sister, Vianne, is more like a family woman. Her husband has to go off to war. She's left home with her young daughter, and she has to struggle to figure out how to survive without her husband and without a support system. Then her younger sister, Isabel, actually comes to live with her for a while. Isabel is very defiant defiant, very much wants to create her own destiny, make her own way in the world, and absolutely does not want to stand idly by while the Nazis invade and occupy France. She really wants to help become part of the resistance. And so her and her sister butt heads a lot, and it's really interesting to watch their sister dynamic. That's definitely what I hear a lot about regarding this book, is the sister family dynamics, and I definitely am loving that aspect of this read. This is another like very richly written, beautifully written story. I am very much enjoying it. The writing is so beautiful and just has a lot of depth to it, so you really feel like you know the characters, know the setting, know the story, know exactly what's happening, and you really find yourself immersed in it. This definitely is a very immersive read, is how I would describe it, and it's just really well done. I've heard forever that Kristin Hannah is not an author to miss out on, and I totally agree with that. Having read 50% of this book, it is very, very well done. I'm really loving it so far. It's made me tear up a little bit. Honestly, pretty exciting, and I really love the characters. I love both Isabelle and Vian for different reasons, and they also annoy me for different reasons. They're very like complex, realistic characters, which I love. So very much enjoying this one so far at the 50% mark, and this one might be my favorite of the video so far. We'll see once it ends, but this might take the top spot over the Japanese Lover. We shall see. Really liking it.
5 minutes later.
Oh my god. And I'm back in the bunk room. I set up my tripod, so hopefully we won't get seasick in this clip. But yeah, obviously I finished The Nightingale, and I was correct in my last clip. It was by far my favorite book of this video. It was incredible. It might be the very best book I have read so far this year. And I've read like 65 books so far this year. It was that good. So basically in the second half of this book, we just continue following Vian and Isabelle. They're parallel but very different ways of contributing to the war effort. And like I said in that first clip, they are like perfect opposites of each other in the way that they look at the world. But I really loved seeing how they differed, but also how they were there for each other when they needed to be and how they came together. And this story just literally had everything. The writing was incredible, layered, rich, beautiful. The characters were incredible. I felt like I intimately knew each and every one of them. The plot of this book was also amazing. Like, there's literally never a dull moment. That was my biggest fear going into this book. I don't think I talked about this, but I have always kind of avoided The Nightingale because I just took a look at it, assumed that it was really long and it was going to be really dry and really boring because it's World War II historical fiction. But I was completely and totally wrong, and I am so glad that I was so very wrong, because this book was amazing. I just wish I had read it sooner. I really liked the different perspective this book took on World War II as well. I really had never considered how much it affected France and how the Nazis really did occupy France and terrorize the French people. That was never really a focus of learning the history of World War II for me in my past education. So it was really interesting to get that different perspective and something that was really needed. And it was really cool, the historical relevancy of what Isabelle was doing, helping displaced airmen from America and the UK and different allied countries, help them get to safety and cross Nazi-occupied territory. Like, that was insane. Women are amazing. And I thought it was cool that Isabelle's character was based on historical women who actually did that same thing. But yeah, if it wasn't clear from my crying clips a second ago, I absolutely loved this book. It destroyed me in the end. Oh my god. There's this part where this character like sacrifices themselves, and it just absolutely destroyed me. Like, I was sobbing, as you can see. I turned to the camera on the end of it when I was getting myself fixed up. That's how bad it was. I just was absolutely devastated because I just came to love every single character, even the like secondary characters and tertiary characters. Like, everybody, I loved them. And I think that's just a testament to how talented of a writer Kristin Hannah is. She just creates this very immersive world where you just feel like these characters are your friends and you want the best for them or the worst from them if they're evil. But oh, it was great. I absolutely loved this book. A full 5 stars. My favorite of this video by far. I really, really loved it. So thank you, Nicolee, for pushing me to read it. I appreciate you. Alright, now let's just do a little wrap up here. First, I'm just going to go through and kind of rank the books, and then we'll kind of wrap up the similarities I see between all 3 of them, maybe the differences, and why I think these are books that Nicolee considers her favorites, and what that might mean for her, because I don't know, I like psychoanalyzing my friends. So it's probably pretty clear from my previous clips, but my least favorite book that I read for this vlog was The Scent Keeper by 𝗙𝗵𝗱𝗲𝗬. I liked this book. I gave it 3.5. There were things I liked, things I didn't like. Wasn't a favorite, but overall it was more good than bad. But it is third in this video because The Japanese Lover is second, and it was a 5-star book. It was incredible. I loved it. I loved the characters. I loved the ending. I loved how everything came together and tied up. It was incredible. But then the very clear winner, The Nightingale by Kristin Hanna, it was like a 5-star favorite. The Japanese Lover was a 5-star, but The Nightingale is a 5-star favorite. Incredible. One of the best books I've ever read in my life. It clearly deserves its #1 spot in this video. And I did already kind of touch on this in the last clip that I filmed in this bunk room, but there are quite a few similar themes between these stories, which I thought was super interesting. So #1, there is kind of an element of like displacement, or like characters not being a part of like a functional healthy family unit. There's always some kind of dissonance in the family, and the characters kind of have to find their own family, create their own family. This happened in The Japanese Lover with both Alma and Irina had to move away from home and kind of find their people outside of their immediate family. Same with The Scent Keeper. Our main character was separated from her family, had to kind of make her own. In The Nightingale, this is very much about a sister relationship, but it's about a strained sister relationship, and both of them, their mother has passed away. They have a strained relationship with their father, almost a non-existent relationship with their father. The sisters don't really get along, especially in the beginning, even throughout the entire book. They both kind of have to create their own family units and kind of realize what family means to them. So I really think that family in general and found family in particular are really big themes in all 3 of these books, which I think is super interesting. I feel like all 3 of these books also represent the resilience and strength of women. They all feature very strong, prominent female characters in their plot lines who all have to overcome quite a bit of adversity in a number of different ways. So that's really cool. I love strong women as well, which is probably why I liked a lot of these books. And then I actually want to say that I think the writing of all 3 of these books is pretty similar in that all of them are very richly written, very descriptively written, and very like immersively written. Like you feel very grounded in each of these stories. So I feel like that must be a writing style that Nicolee gravitates towards and tends to enjoy, something with a lot of description, a lot of setting, a lot of sense of place, just feeling like you're immersed in the world alongside the characters, which I feel like a lot of readers like that, but I feel like this was a different kind of writing that really created a very rich picture in your mind, if you know what I mean. Oh, and all 3 of these books actually had a pretty broad timeline that they took place over. The Nightingale was probably the shortest amount of time, but it was still a number of years, and I think that's interesting because I consider myself to be the opposite and to like books that take place over a short period of time, but all 3 of these books took place over quite a long period of time. The Scent Keeper for me didn't work in this way, but The Japanese Lover and The Nightingale I think did it really well, where I didn't feel confused in time where I did with The Scent Keeper, but that's another similar element with all 3 of these books. So to conclude, Nicolee likes books with family elements, strong women that take place over a long period of time, and that are very well written. Does this tell me anything? I don't know, but I just think it's interesting. And that is pretty much going to be it for this video. So this is a collab with Nicolee. Nicolee also did a video where she read my favorite books, so definitely go to her channel and check that out and subscribe to her if you're not already. Like I said in the beginning, she's the sweetest person and I love her so much, and she has very good taste in books, as I have discovered. I already knew that, but just more solidified that fact, you know. So yeah, if you want to see more of me, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Very active over there. Post 4 to 5 videos a month on YouTube. So definitely subscribe to me and like this video if you liked it. Don't forget to check out any other links in the description, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!